Greetings, y'all. Welcome to another video here on a rainy evening in the CD collection. Today, we are going to be focusing on the great Bob Marley and the Wailers. My CD collection of Bob Marley and the Wailers. I'm sure you're all familiar with the current box office bonanza Bob Marley One Love film that just came out. I saw the film. I thought it was okay. It was better than I thought it was going to be. The trailers did not do it any favors. The trailers looked like the film was going to be kind of weak. Looked a lot like kind of a TV movie version of this story. But it was better than I expected. You know, I can say that, but I don't know that I thought it was that great of a film. It's a little bit of a mess. You know, it seems like they weren't sure what story they wanted to tell. I mean, obviously it's a good idea that they didn't try to tell his entire life story, even though he didn't live to be that old. You know, that's always a mistake these days with biopics. You know, that was the old way of making a biopic, starting from childhood and going up to death. Here they focus kind of like mid-70s till kind of, they don't really follow the end of his life, but you know, they kind of go up to it, or you know, like, you know, when they kind of lay out what happens to him, you know, that's kind of where the film ends. But you know, so that was a good idea, but the film still seems like a little bit like there's maybe 2 or 3 stories here that they're telling, and they really maybe should have focused on one or something like that. The performances are good, but the guy who plays Bob Marley doesn't really look like him, doesn't really sound like him, and I feel like they kind of did a disservice to the actor by ending the film with footage of the real Bob Marley, because instantly, the first thing when you see that footage, you just instantly are comparing him to this guy you just saw play him for an hour and 40 minutes, and you know, you're instantly going to go like, oh, he doesn't look anything like him. So I thought that was kind of not a great idea, but I can say this. There's a really good documentary that came out like 2012 or something like that. I think it's just called Marley. If you're really interested in watching something about Bob Marley, I would highly recommend you watch that instead of this film. You know, this film is obviously kind of piggybacking off of the success of that Queen movie about Freddie Mercury and then that Elton John movie. It seems like we're getting a ton of these kind of biopics that are coming out now, and I kind of feel like if those films hadn't come out and weren't successful, this movie probably wouldn't exist. The family would have been just happy with having that really good documentary that they made a bunch of years ago to be out there for people to see. So, you know, that's it. You know, I'm not here to really give you a big review, but that's my thoughts on the film. We're here to talk about the CDs I own by Bob Marley, and like probably everybody, my collection of Bob Marley stuff started with the great Legend. Legend came out in 1984. It is just one of the biggest albums of all time. I don't know how many copies this thing has sold. If the number is 20 million, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, this is kind of like one of those albums that's almost like it was like issued to everybody back in the 80s and the 90s. You know, they had to own a copy of this. It was the law. And it's, you know, I mean, when it comes to Bob Marley, if you just want a greatest hits collection or a best of collection, it's hard to go wrong with this. I mean, it's just a great selection of songs. I know there's some issues with, you know, hardcore fans about some of the versions maybe that are on here. There's multiple greatest hits out there that you can pick up for him, but like I said, you know, it's hard to kind of go wrong with this one. It's just a classic for a reason. So that's Legend. That's where it all began. Got that. I don't know. I started listening to reggae around 86 with Jimmy Cliff and Bob Marley's son, Ziggy Marley, and the Melody Makers in 88. That's when I sort of started getting into reggae, actually. 1973, we get Catch a Fire by Bob Marley. This version is listed as Bob Marley and the Wailers. I think originally it came out as just the Wailers. And this cover art, the original artwork for this when it came out on vinyl back then was like a Zippo lighter, and the vinyl actually like opened up like a Zippo lighter. So it's kind of cool if you come across like an old copy of that on vinyl. Maybe it's being reissued that way, but if you find the Zippo one, it's kind of an interesting way to, you know, do the album artwork there. You know, they used to do a lot of stuff like that back in the 70s. They don't do it so much anymore. But not much in the liner notes. These are kind of the versions, the CDs that came out originally. Probably all of these have been reissued, you know, with great liner notes inside and everything, but none of these really have them. But some of the tracks on this one that I really like are 400 Years, Stop That Train, Baby We've Got a Date, Stir It Up, and Kinky Reggae is another one. Great album, Catch a Fire. That same year, 1973, we get Burnin' by the Wailers. Another great album. This is back when Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer were in the band still. Again, not much in the artwork or liner notes department there. But, you know, again, another great collection of tunes on here. You have Get Up, Stand Up, Doopy Conqueror, and I Shot the Sheriff, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. Eric Clapton covered that and made it a big hit. So that certainly brought some ears to the Wailers. But that's Burnin' by the Wailers. Then in 1974, we get Natty Dread. Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer are now gone from the band, and Bob Marley and the Wailers carry on. Another great album, another great collection of songs, another CD with nothing much in the booklet here. But let's see, on this one, some of my favorite tracks are Lively Up Yourself, No Woman, No Cry, Them Belly Full, Natty Dread, and Talkin' Blues is another one that I really like from Natty Dread. Then 1976 brings us Rastaman Vibration, another good one from the band. I picked most of these CDs up in, I believe, the 90s. Like, I just kind of went on a tear where I just started picking up all of their records. This one's got some lyrics inside. And yeah, I just, you know, just really was getting heavily into his albums back then in the 90s. On this one, my favorite tracks are Positive Vibration, Roots Rock Reggae, Who the Cap Fit, Night Shift, and Rat Race. Another great collection of tunes from the band. And then 1977, we get what I think a lot of people consider to be like their masterpiece, and that is Exodus. That new movie spends a good deal of time on the creation of this album. But this is, I would be hard pressed to argue with the people who think this is their masterpiece, because the album is pretty epic. It is a really good album, and it'd be great if there were some cool liner notes to go into why that is. But there's definitely deluxe versions of this CD that have been released that really go into, you know, all the details of this album and its kind of place in history. The tracks on here that are great: Natural Mystic, So Much Things to Say, the title track Exodus, Jamming, Waiting in Vain, Turn Your Lights Down Low, Three Little Birds, One Love, People Get Red. I mean, every track. The whole album's great. You know, if you're not really familiar with Bob Marley or you want to get into him, Legend certainly is a great place to start, but, you know, Exodus would be an easy an option number 2 or whatever if you want to. So they followed that up with Kaya, another really good album by the band. We've got probably not much in the booklet on this one either. I feel like this was, not that it means anything, but I feel like this was maybe one of the last ones that I picked up when I was collecting these for some reason. I don't know. This one escaped me for a little bit. But another good collection of songs, you know. On here you've got Easy Skankin', Kaya, Is This Love, Satisfy My Soul, and Time Will Tell. another good one. I tried reading, there's a really dense book. I think it's called Catch a Fire. It's probably what's considered the like definitive history of the band and Bob Marley. And it's really thick. I remember my brother had read it and he passed it on to me. And I remember starting to read it, but it really got deep into the politics that were going around in Jamaica and the history and everything. And I think it kind of lost me a little bit. Some of it I wasn't really connecting with. And, I feel like a big chunk of the beginning of that book is just it's not even about Bob Marley. It's all just about the history, setting the scene, so to say. And I don't know. I don't know if I still have it somewhere, but I'd really be interested to maybe dive into that and give it another try, because I remember it kind of losing me at some point. But if you're interested in reading up on Bob Marley, that's probably where to go. 1978, we get Babylon by Bus, a live album. I think I remember when I picked this up back in the 90s, his kind of like classic live album is just called Live. And I believe when I got this, that's what I thought I was picking up. But this is a different live album. It's good, it's really good, but I mean, I think most people, when they think of live albums for him, Live is the one that they kind of go to. But great collection of songs: Positive Vibration, Punky Reggae Party, Exodus, Stir It Up, Rat Race, Lively Up Yourself, Jamming. It's a good set list, so can't really go wrong with that. 79, we get Survival. And it's a good album. If I was going to be ranking these, if I had to put something down below, this might be closer to the bottom. It's not my favorite, but they're all really good. You can't really go wrong with any of these albums. They're all a great listen, and just some awesome songwriting on all of these, really. But on here, some of my tunes that I dig are So Much Trouble in the World, title track Survival, One Drop, and Ride Natty Ride. Great advice there. Another good one, Survival. And 1980, we get Uprising, really good record. I keep saying that about everything, don't I? But I like his catalog, here. I really do. I think I pretty much have all his studio albums. I mean, there's some earlier Wailers albums that came out before Catch a Fire, that I think, he was mainly recording for Island Records. And I think there are some that came out pre-Island. I don't think I have any of those, but his Island output, I think I pretty much have all of them here. On this album, my favorite tunes are Coming In From the Cold, Real Situation, We and Them, Could You Be Loved, and it ends with Redemption Song, another one of those kind of like iconic Bob Marley and the Wailers songs that, pretty much everybody in the world knows that one, has heard it. And then in 1983, posthumous release from him, we get Confrontation, which might be, Exodus is up there, but this might be my second favorite album by them. It's really good. Like I said, it's posthumous, so they took a lot of like tracks, leftovers and stuff that were around, and the backup singers, including his wife Rita Marley, the I3, they added some vocals. I think maybe some instrumentation was added, but it was kind of put together that way. I don't think all these songs were completed and just released as is. I think they needed to do some work on them, but it's a really strong album. On this one, the tracks on here that I dig are Chant Down Babylon, Buffalo Soldier, Jump Nyabingi, Mix Up, Trench Town, and I Know is another one. Yeah, just a really solid album to kind of close out his studio output. And like I said, Bob Marley is big business these days, man. The family there's tons of releases out there. You can pick up so many different like compilations and deluxe issues and everything reissued, etc., etc. So his catalog is probably massive, but this this does it for me. This kind of holds me over, and just an awesome collection of tunes. Let me know what your favorite Bob Marley album is, and go check out the documentary. By all means, if you want to see that new movie, feel free. I'm lukewarm on it, but if you saw it and you want to kind of let me know what you think of it, I would love to hear what you thought of the new film. But thank you for tuning in, and see you later, y'all.